G'day and welcome to Lunch Money, the online and social media home for workouts, special situations and capital raising professionals. My name is Nick Samios. I am the fund manager and director here at Hermes Capital, and I am your Lunch Money podcast and live stream host. So a warm and personal welcome to you. A reminder to share, like and subscribe us on YouTube or Facebook or wherever it is you're watching. Now, I normally say share, but today I think we're going to be giving out some secret sauce today. So you may not want to share this episode with your competitors, because if you do, you'll be giving away some competitive advantage. How about that? That's a pretty big claim. The spotlight today is on the challenges facing professional service providers, people like myself, accountants, lawyers, turnaround professionals, anyone who is in the professional services game, particularly where the stakes are high. And when I mean the stakes are high, we could be looking at, funding transactions for $2 million, $3 million, $10 million. There might be an insolvency or a restructuring firm. And, if you're talking about Virgin or Sea Folly or some of these major insolvencies, the stakes are very high. And normally, people such as myself, we're used to getting around a table to discuss things. We're used to building the relationships that generate referrals in our business, because that's the big thing in professional services. We all rely upon referrals, and we're used to building the relationships that generate those referrals by having cups of coffee and getting together for dinners and lunches and beers and running seminars. But we can't do that now in this COVID environment. Now, I might be able to go and have a coffee with someone in Sydney, but I can't go to Perth. I can't go to Brisbane. How do we build those relationships? And how do we build trust in particular? And trust is very important, particularly when it comes to the high stakes situation. I've got a matter at the moment where it's a $2 million transaction. It's in Perth. I believe I've got the best solution for the client. But part of the solution is not just the money. It's also me and my firm and my staff. And in the past, I may have jumped on a plane and taken one of our key operations staff with us to sit with the client to sort of demonstrate that capability. But we can't do that face-to-face anymore. So we've got two special guests today to help us navigate these challenges. Our first guest is Dave Kenney, who is a partner with Chadwick. G'day, Dave. How are you going?
I'm good, thanks, Nick. Yourself?
Fantastic. Now, Dave, I know that you've been on before, and thank you very much for coming back again. I know that one of your specialties is in the area of entrepreneurship as well as capital raising. So you find yourself mentoring businesses, I imagine, quite a bit. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, I do a lot of mentoring and office hours and one-on-ones and group sessions as well. So yeah, it's been no shortage of things to do in that space, and it's a lot of fun.
And what in particular have you find yourself doing more of in the last week or two? What's sort of taking your focus?
Probably one of the highlights was a major IPO on Nasdaq. That was an excellent outcome, and share prices are going very, very well. Seeing some of the startups graduate and raise a few dollars as well. That's been pretty pleasing, and just generally, clients that are doing it tough and being there for them to help them through problems and make sure you give them everything you got to help them. So
you take startups through the various rounds of capital raising. So it's the first round, second round, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. From day one to IPO on Nasdaq, through to accelerators in Australia, and so yeah, really just working with them from idea through to exit. But so I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
I guess roadshows are certainly a little bit different in this environment, aren't they?
Yeah, look, I think the fundamentals of what makes something investable haven't changed a lot, but obviously the industries and COVID's had some sort of impact in lots of different ways. It's a lot harder to get out, and I think we'll probably touch on the fact that it is harder to have that intimacy and really get to know people a little bit better than you can sometimes do on a Zoom call. But yeah, for sure, it's challenges are still there. There's still people transacting. People are still looking for disruptive and valuable companies, and that's not stopped. And we'll wait and see how the world performs before I'm in reasonable. I'm reasonably happy to see that lots of deals are still happening, so that's good.
Look, I think you have to stay optimistic. Certainly, maybe not so much entirely in your circle, but some of the guys down the hall in the office in the insolvency section. I mean, we talk a lot about doom and gloom, but at the end of the day, you've got to make things happen. And I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to have this discussion today about being what it is that we need to do to make stuff happen.
Well, you got to be there to anticipate and help your clients with what they need, and it's a lot more than the vanilla stuff. And I always like to say no one goes broke on my shift. But at the end of the day, it's pretty tough out there for lots of sectors, and my insolvency partners are working hard at looking after people that they work with and keeping them apprised of all the latest useful strategies. So they're as busy as ever as well, but maybe doing something slightly different. But
I guess you've got your finger on the pulse around the country, of course, because you've got offices in all the major capital cities.
Correct. So it's different. I mean, everyone's obviously Victoria's in a special situation, but look, I mean, no one's impervious to what's going on around the country either, and sector specific. I mean, all of it will happen in a wave, and we'll work out. We haven't probably seen the full impact of this. It's still very early, really, in the scheme of things.
Yeah. All right. Well, Dave, we'll just introduce our next guest. So we'll put you back in the waiting room there for a tick, and it's Adam Benson, who is the managing director of Recognition, Outsource, and Right Away. I guess, how you going, Adam?
Yeah, really well, thanks, Nick.
Fantastic. In our pre-show chat, I was saying that obviously, your business is a lot around electronic communications as well as telemarketing and that sort of thing. So I appreciate, obviously, you do a lot of face-to-face yourself. But what's changed? Firstly, what is it that's keeping you busy the last little while?
Yeah, look, a lot of our clients are in the technology sector, so vendors and then partners that resell vendor technology. Probably the biggest thing that we're seeing is just this wholesale pivot to digital marketing. So for us, a lot of firms that would be mid-tier firms, so 50 to maybe 500 people, a lot of their business was done just shaking hands and doing coffees and getting out and seeing people, as you said. It's kind of just how business was done. And and suddenly they're doing business from behind a pane of glass, basically. And what everyone is discovering, or not everyone, but a large proportion of those mid-tier firms that have been pretty good at word of mouth and client referral-based work, is without that ability to get out and do that face-to-face and that physical work, they've had to turn their attention to how well they can turn on their marketing efforts, digitally. So suddenly they're looking at their website that hasn't been touched for 4 or 5 years. They realise that they're not showing up in search, which didn't really matter before, but now it's absolutely critical because it's the only thing that kind of matters if someone new is looking for that kind of service. They're having to codify processes around, well, how do we build trust? How do we build engagement with people that don't know us very well? What sorts of things do we need to do to demonstrate our expertise? And so for us, we're sort of getting quite a few different organisations come to us who are saying, look, we need to get this sorted because we know there's business out there, but we're not getting any of it, or we're not getting as much as we should be, or we would have traditionally got.
Yeah, I guess in the current environment, you certainly, the margin for error is less, isn't it, when it comes to marketing spend and bringing the business in. Before, if you missed one, okay, but now you need more of them to stick, don't you?
You do, but I'd actually argue almost the opposite. That one of the things that a lot of organisations are discovering is just how granular you can get with your spend when it comes to digital marketing in particular. So you can really start to allocate where you put your money to quite small, sort of more granular points. And you can measure things a lot better, and you can run programs that work while you sleep. And that's a bit of a disconnect from some of their older sales models where, they would essentially hope that people were working really hard to bring in deals and hope that people would hear about them through word of mouth and client referral. So in some ways, actually, it just so happens that digital marketing in particular gives you a lot of data points to measure and a lot of ways to continuously pivot and change your marketing in a way that older style marketing, you run a big event, and if 2 people turn up, that's a single point of failure, and it's a bit hard to work out what happened or what went wrong. But with this, you can chop and change. You can change your messages on the fly. You can try new things overnight. You can do, so in some ways, you're looking for more volume than maybe you could have had before in terms of prospects.
Right.
Yes, you don't want to miss any deals, but most of the businesses we're talking to are not in the kind of stress that maybe other sectors are yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're hoping that you can sprinkle a bit of holy water on some of those sectors that are a little bit more in need. We'll bring Dave back. I'm wondering, Dave. Adam said there that with the shift to digital, maybe there's a little bit more accountability. I wonder, because more stuff's being measured. Is there more accountability? I'm thinking about, business development, maybe, partner activities and that sort of stuff. I mean, do you think that in professional services, there's more accountability now?
Well, I think people are trying to try new things and, having to work from home. People are saying, why don't we try different things online? But building trust has never been any different to many, really. I mean, it's about, having a slow burn and giving people valuable information that's relevant, and you're talking to the right clients, and their pain this pain is urgent, and it's it's high at the right time that you're talking to them. So you've got to, with the technology and the various tools out there that you can split test and really identify your ideal customer. You can get a lot more granular. You can make sure you're fishing in the right ponds. You can do all of the things that you should be doing anyway, but digital just gives you more real-time data. There's so many great platforms out there that can give you, what your ad spend is, what your cost per customer is, click-through rates, etc. But all of that said, what doesn't change is having the right message and the right product and making sure in front of the right customer. So the old-fashioned stuff, or the most important things are, having the right product, getting in front of the right customer at the right point and the right distribution system. But at the end of the day, I think we have seen a lot of people go further down the digital path because they think, well, I can't do the same sort of marketing, so I might as well get on the front foot and dip the toe into it. And there's probably so much more content out there. But again, the good content is easily separable. And the fact that, for example, Nick, people hopefully have worked out that, you provide good content, so you're worth listening to. So there's some key takeaways that the audience is going to get. It's not just 30 minutes of their life they're not going to get back. So you've got to, you can start and you can measure it, but it starts with creating good content.
There is a war for content now. That's what's happened is this wholesale move to digital because that's the only game there is. And exactly as David said, so now there's this war for content. There's the very average that is bleedingly obvious, and then there's the real insightful content that truly builds awareness, educates, demonstrates your expertise, shows how you're going to build, gives people an idea of what it's going to be like to work with you and the kind of thinking and the gravitas you bring to a situation versus crap.
Getting back to the issue of trust, what are the key things that build trust? I'm thinking, it's the little promises, I guess, are the signals, aren't they, that you can deliver on the big promises?
I think the reality is when you're selling quite sophisticated, complex, high-value products and services, so things that you need to explain and educate, and often products or services people might only buy once in their lifetime or twice in their corporate careers. You don't go and buy an SAP solution every 5 days. It's something that, as a buyer, you're not necessarily sure how to buy it. You don't change accounting firms every 5 months. You learn how to make that purchase and then work with that organisation, and it's very hard to work out what you would compare or what you'd be looking for. How do you create trust particularly in services organisations? And it comes through in all the things you just said. First up, people trust those who share our values. If you're talking about the kinds of issues in the way that they think about those same issues, you instantly have some rapport. They're people that listen and ask really great questions and have questions that drive them to think. If you're asking challenging questions and you're demonstrating your expertise because of the quality of the questions you ask, then you start to create trust. If you
Right.
are accurate and credible, so you're not, it's our point about lightweight content versus things that show you did the market study or you've really got experience to bring to bear. All those things start to take what is a fairly intangible and hard to understand product or service and say, what you're trying to do is de-risk that purchase. How do you essentially get them to feel comfortable that you've got their best interests at heart, you know what you're doing, you're a safe bet, and you're going to deliver what you say you're going to deliver. And that can be done remotely. You don't have to be in a meeting to do that face to face.
Well, you talk about obviously adopting, whether or not to adopt a new SAP system is a big decision, but certainly, getting a capital raise away on the NASDAQ is a pretty big decision as well, David. What resonates with you out of what Adam was just saying then?
I'd just sum it up into one word, Nick, and that's care. Care about the person you're trying to help. Ultimately, they're not at all interested in your product. They care about their pain or what their problem is, and you don't get to explore that with someone at a detailed level because the world's sick of being sold to. You can't walk down the street without seeing a bus selling at you. You can't open your phone without getting an ad. You can't do anything. Everyone's become increasingly cynical that this is going to be a sales message or a call. So you do stand out if you do play the long game, and some of your best customers will be you don't need to sell if you do a good job with your customers, and they'll sell for you. But I think if you sum it all up, is to work out what's right for them, what do they need, and in a complex sale situation, you're far more of a consultant first to work out what are their problems and to establish that you are on the same page as them, and you're an insider, if you like. You understand their world, and then as a result of being able to understand their world, they'll open up, because there's nothing people hate more than talking to someone who's they know is just trying to sell to them. They're not adding any value to their problem, and they're not listening. They're just trying to sell. So they're not thinking about what the person's talking about. They're thinking about the next thing they want to say. And that is easily spotted by people that are traditionally in charge of complex procurement processes. So I think the real reason that people do well or they don't is that they care about people, and that they work, they try and get into their position and understand the pain they're going through, which comes back to the first point, is you want to make sure that you are talking to ideal customers rather than being, having a shotgun approach to just spray and pray your message and spend your time, which comes back to the number one thing. That's where we spend our time, needs to be super focused, and tools can help us manage that distribution system. But we need to understand more about our customers and their pain than they do themselves sometimes.
I think, Adam, one of the things that Dave's saying there is, he didn't say it in quite these words, but if I can use a listening technique on you, Dave, is that you're really talking about listening. You're talking about people who are just thinking about what they're going to say next, as opposed to listening what you're saying, for example. Now, I know that good listening skills using good listening skills are obviously very key to showing that care. You opened up by saying it's showing caring. I mean, Adam, we spoke again earlier about being on time. I quoted the military saying, "Don't be late, don't be light, and be in uniform." There's nothing worse than you've got the Zoom call and Fred's not there, and you're ringing Fred, you're SMSing, "Where's Fred?" I don't think that is necessarily showing care. You know what I mean? I think that, and I also think personal appearance as well. If it's one thing to say, "Oh yeah, look, I've just washed my hair, I've got my, just been out for a jog," but I think showing caring is also the way you present yourself. But how do you demonstrate, Adam? How do you sort of build listening skills into the processes online, be it electronic or.
Look, that hasn't changed. I mean, that sort of concept of being a trusted advisor and somebody that people feel comfortable telling their problems to and feel like they're in a safe pair of hands, and somebody that really is there to help them, not to help themselves, and not create in an artificial way, but you've got to establish that kind of level of trust. And those listening skills are inherent in any consultant, and particularly in professional services, people who are in business development or are in consulting or client engagement roles do it naturally. They just naturally do it. Often it's paraphrasing back to the client, so what you're saying is this, have I captured that correctly? So making sure that you're telegraphing that you really are listening to what they have to say. And if you're suggesting next steps, so look, if I did that, would that be helpful? Would that be the next thing you'd want me to do? Giving them options and choices and feeling control over the sort of the way the conversation's going, the areas that you see you might be able to add value, but making sure that, again, you're not getting ahead of yourself, that you're checking back and saying, so is this going to work for you? If I come back like this, will that be helpful? Have you thought about this? And as David said, really at the back of your mind is, I am quite prepared to offer advice and support, even if it means I might not be the right person to actually have this as a client. Say, look, I don't think we can really help you because it's not my area, but look, this is how I think you should go solve this problem with other people, maybe even. And that's kind of where the trusted advisor piece comes, because often people go, actually, I trust you so much, I'd rather you try and help me work this through rather than me go back out to market and just start talking to strangers again. So active listening's, that doesn't change on Zoom. The physical manifestation of, what do you look like? How do you present yourself? For our team, every single one of our team, we have created a shared virtual office that's a background. Our logos are on the top right, like you've got on your screen. Also, our job title in a nice coloured bubble, and our company that we're tied to. So when you get 5 of us on a call with a group meeting with clients, we look like a company. You get us on a call, you look like you've got a company you're talking to, not a bunch of
you. Look like a team. It sounds like you look like a team.
Yeah, and I'm surprised I'm not seeing more of that, actually. It's sort of, I think that hygiene stuff's going to catch up. I think we're going to see dress regs come back in for remote. Look, guys, I don't want to see anyone on a Zoom call in a pajama top or a sloppy Joe, and I'm certainly guilty of that. But with clients I know really well and who's also in a sloppy Joe. But it's the old adage, you don't need to look like your client. You need to look like who your client wants to do business with.
Yeah, look, I was saying earlier that back in the 80s, there used to be the debate when everybody smoked like chimneys. There was the debate, should you smoke in front of the client? And then there was rules. Well, if the client lights up, you can light up. But I remember seeing a sales training video that said you never smoke in front of the client because it's never going to win you the sale, and it could lose you the sale. I'm interested, Dave. Obviously, Hall Chadwick is a national firm, and I know that that you guys pay a lot of attention to branding, and certainly branding can come unstuck very easily. I would have thought in some of these Zoom calls. Is that something that you guys have specifically given thought to, or what are your thoughts?
I don't think we've got as precise approach as Adam's described. I just something you touched on before, which was people expect you to look a certain way. I think people expect certain outcomes. Just thinking back to when I first started work, all my bosses were Mr. So-and-so, and everyone wore, I haven't got a tie on today, everyone wore ties. But what I think has really changed a lot is that people are more interested in how people, they should be, the person first, rather than just what they do. Like,
can I just sort of push back a little bit on you there, Dave?
Yeah.
And it's okay if you're Dave Kenney, right? You've been around for a few years. You've established yourself. You're a brand in your own right. Like, people around Australia know that, particularly when it comes to capital raising, everyone's heard of Dave Kenney in those circles. And so you've got a brand. So, you could probably, turn up in just a pair of board shorts and a singlet, and they know that's Dave Kenney, and they're going to get what they get. So you can rely on, they know they're going to get an outcome with you. But would you give that exact same, if you've got a brand new partner at Hall Chadwick there, would you give them the same advice? So, I mean, if they don't have that recognition and that track record, you know,
perhaps you're right, actually, Nick, that you do need to go through the learning curve, and you can do things your way a little bit and not be judged, if you like, or not. People might think, well, why would you don't look the part. There's some truth in that, I'm sure, as to where you are in the starting lineup versus where you are at the end or whatever.
Yeah,
for sure. But I still think that it depends on if you're trying to make a first impression, and I agree with you. If you're, but even for my team, that are like, if I'm always perfect, or it just sets a too high expectation. Trust me, I'm never always perfect, but I just think we're dealing with people, and you've got to be a little bit flexible when it comes to how people are feeling and looking and all that sort of thing at the moment, because it's been a shit period. Like I don't subscribe to you got to be perfect, you got to look the part as much. And I don't know. And you made me think. Is that because I've just been at it a long time, or because I think I set the standards and say that there should be no deviation from that? Don't know.
Yeah.
It's important, if you are meeting someone for the first time, you probably don't want to turn up in tracksuit pants. You should look the part. Yeah. In fact, my wife says you could probably dress a bit sharper, to be honest.
Well, I mean, the Godfather can turn up in a meeting wearing a dressing gown, right? But I'm not sure if the guys down the chain can do that. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, look, it's a great point about if people understand your value. If you're somebody that is an iconic sort of person that everybody wants to do business with and is really pleased to have in the room, turn up with a fish on your head, it probably doesn't matter. But for the rest of us, particularly my sort of business where, I've got 2 PR firms as well, we're managing the reputations of companies, not just people. There's an expectation at some point that you might want to look like you care about reputation. But yes, these are different times. At the same time, I think, being slaves to ridiculous kind of dress codes that make no sense in this environment. And we've been, the IT industry, really kind of figured it out. So I remember wearing, a 3-piece suit and tie all through the 90s, polished black shoes, and so did every client I met. And then sort of post 2000, everything started to drift into jeans and jackets and this sort of gear. And so I think IT kind of found a happy medium, to be honest.
And what do you think? I'm just thinking about just to sort of change the tone a little bit. Prospecting. I know that that you run telesales teams. I mean, that's one of the things you do is outsource telesales teams. I mean, one of the when you're doing lead gen, sometimes the telemarketer will make that initial call and set up a meeting. But how do you how do you do the follow-ups now? If how do you sort of take the relationship from here to here? The telephone got you in the door, but then how do you do that?
Yeah, look, to be honest, Nick, telemarketing these days, and really for the last few years, is probably 1% of what we do. So that days of companies asking us to just ring a list of prospects to see if they might happen to have $500,000 to spend on a software solution that afternoon, funnily enough, turned out to be not very effective. It's okay for identifying early stage opportunities. It's okay for following up on people that have shown interest in other campaigns and other activities. So being part of the nurture process, but as a cold calling kind of thing, I don't really offer it to it anymore. So what do you do? Comes back to the point before. You've got to be able to demonstrate your expertise through how you exhibit, the kind of artifacts you create and put online and share in webinars. I mean, this is an artifact, right? This is demonstrating that you've got the right sort of domain expertise and connections and gravitas in the industry to be able to run something like this and make it truly interesting for people. So it's no different with everyone else that's selling those kinds of complex products and services. You've got to create content that truly is interesting, engaging, informing, And as they move down through the sales funnel, then yes, you will have people that will pick up the phone call and say, look, I see you've been on our website 27 times. I see that you've downloaded our last 5 ebooks. I see that. Do you want to have a chat? You seem interested. Why don't we have a conversation about, where you're up to and what are you looking for? What sort of information is most useful to you? Maybe I've got other things I could share with you. So it's that kind of piece.
Can I just add a spin to that too, Adam? That Nick, I think you were asking about how do you rank your leads that you've set appointments. How do you rank those? Unless you've got some sort of matrix that deals with your ideal client, and then you know as much as possible. And there's lots of different things you can find out about your client, your ideal client that aren't clients yet, and you can score them based on different parameters that are the most urgent, have the right budget, have the right size, whatever the parameters are that make them the ideal client. Those can be essentially scored, and that should then prioritise how quickly and who your best salespeople are that deal with those opportunities.
Yeah, and that's where marketing automation platforms have really come into their own, because they do a lot of that lead scoring and lead profiling. But it's not just scoring ideal clients; it's also the behaviour they're exhibiting in terms of interacting with your content online and where they spend their time online, because you're getting signals from that now too, which can through those same platforms, and that tells you more things again. So they're not just the right looking company; they're actually exhibiting the kind of behaviour that tells you they're ready to have a conversation and actually want to have a conversation.
Yeah. Okay, look, guys, we are, believe it or not, we're actually out of time. So it's been a great conversation. I'd just like to wrap up by maybe asking each of you, maybe for just one piece of advice and this one sort of closing piece of advice. I'll start with you, Adam.
Sure. If you want to build authority in the area that you really want to be known in, then you need artifacts. You need to create those into those sorts of marketing pieces you can share, demonstrate your expertise and your knowledge. That will build authority, and that builds trust.
Dave?
For me, I think be more human. Sometimes people like to get a text message and send them a funny meme, or I don't know. It's people deal with people they like too. It's not, if people there's 2 different providers of the same product and you like one more than the other, I know which one I'd put the money on in terms of closing the deal. So I think be more human is my my one piece.
That's interesting. A mutual friend of Adam's and mine, Paul Vorbach, he likes to say that when all things are equal, people like to deal with people they like, and when all things are unequal, people like to deal with people they like. So I think that sort of plays to David. So Adam Benson, if you want to reach out and contact Adam, we have his contact details in all of the promo materials for this. So please go back and you can reference that. And similar with Dave Kenney at Hall Chadwick. Adam, outsource, recognition, or which one do we direct them to?
Look, outsource has probably got the clearest message around marketing support.
Fantastic. Sure. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for coming back again, and it's been a wonderful show. Thank you very much, and thank you to all of our viewers and listeners. We'll see you next time. Cheers.